and welcome to the Talking Shit Podcast Blue Review of Shout Factory's new RoboCop 2 Blu-ray. In 1990, RoboCop 2 hit the screen. Though not nearly as acclaimed by critics and not as beloved by the audience, it did gain more love and respect and a little bit of a cult following in the years past. Considering the first film was so influenced by comic book superhero stories and tropes, it was only fitting that acclaimed comic fan favorite Frank Miller was tapped to write the film and pretty much the third film at the same time. And since Paul Verhoeven wasn't interested in returning as director for a second go-around, who better to tap than the man who's responsible for not only directing the greatest film of all time, but one of the best sequels of all time, The Empire Strikes Back, along with working on Bond and being a Hollywood veteran, Mr. Irvin Kershner. The story picks up about a year after the first film. OCP is still pushing their Delta City project forward. Taking over the city hasn't been as easy as planned. Though, since the success of the first RoboCop program, they were eager to get an updated version online ASAP. A new drug wave has taken over. Murphy is getting closer and closer to our new main villain, Kane, the always excellent Tom Noonan, who is responsible for the new drug labeled Nuke, which eerily predicted the methamphetamine epidemic. After finally getting to him, the woman heading up the RoboCop 2 program, Dr. Fax, chooses Kane to be in the mind of the new cyborg. Like the film itself, RoboCop 2 is 2 times bigger, stronger, faster, more ruthless, and violent than its predecessor, with a lot of new gadgets and tech to boot. Using Kane's brain to power RoboCop 2 no doubt backfires, leaving RoboCop as the only one who could possibly stop the towering terror. RoboCop 2, like the movie's namesake, doesn't live up to the first one, but still is a lot of fun and has an interesting story and builds upon the first film. Miller manages to give us something fresh in the same universe. A non-comic book movie that, like the first film, was so ahead of its time in many ways. The satirical tone is carried over, while, in a way, it almost takes its subtext to the next level in the way of commenting on sequels in general. The movie itself earns a respectable 7 out of 10 stars. There was some controversy over the character Hobb, who is a pint-sized kingpin, and he happens to be Kane's second in command and takes over after Kane is arrested and turned into the cyborg. Honestly, I think it's another part of the series that was ahead of its time. The movie did modestly well in a summer full of competition, opening against Dick Tracy in its second weekend. MGM released the film on Blu-ray prior, but Shout Factory has given the sequel and the third film in the trilogy a makeover. And if you are a fan of the series and you're wondering which version you should get, and if it's worth the upgrade, the short answer is yes. The initial releases from MGM have no special features really to speak of other than trailers, and if you're interested in the films themselves and not just the extras, then the original Blu-ray is more than acceptable as far as picture and sound go, especially for the price you can find the trilogy set for. Shout's version, though, isn't a huge leap in quality, although it is a new scan of the 2K Interpositive, doesn't really look any different. They seem to use the same 5.1 DTS track, although Shout Factory's disc adds the original 2.0 track, but the 5.1 is the better of the two. The extras are plentiful. This is where Shout always tries to outdo themselves. Considering Orion's history is bleak, much like the Bill and Ted set we got last year, you can tell Shout has tried to give us everything they could. 3 documentary featurettes featuring new interviews with a few members of the cast and crew. Peter Weller is sadly not part of the new special features. 1 about the film itself, another on the effects, and a 3rd mainly on the Robo suit. We get some classic interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, a collection of trailers and still galleries, and there are some stills of deleted scenes as well, but like Bill and Ted, sadly there are no actual scenes, just photos and descriptions. Rounding off the features, there's 2 commentaries, one with an author and graphics editor from the film, Paul M. Salmon. Salmon's commentary is decent enough, containing some overlapping info though with the other features. It is still informative though, and can get a tad boring at times. The second is with the crew of a documentary about RoboCop that obviously is coming. This is the first I've heard of it though, but they are very informed and fun to listen to, though it too has a lot of overlap. It is definitely the better of the two though. Afterwards, a little disappointed that there isn't a trailer for their documentary on the disc. If you are a RoboCop fan, especially of the sequel, this version is the one to spring for. It is worth the extras. The Blu-ray gets an 8 out of 10. Keep talking shit.